Hey, everybody. Let's put it together, folks. Come on. Good morning. Beautiful day once again. Thank you. That was an interesting video about Brittany Griner when all the trollers come in. Things that make you go, Thank you. 200 subscribers. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? So, I prefer a cup of coffee for a cup of JoJo. So, thank you, folks. I appreciate it and everything. Quite interesting. Brittany Griner. All the trollers come in. My channel is now deemed an official success. The trollers come up like weeds. They couldn't take the truth, you see? They couldn't take the truth about Brittany Griner. They couldn't take it. Check that video out. That was awesome. That was completely awesome. And I appreciate everybody that subscribed and your viewers. So today, Mike Franzese and the sit down. You know, you watch him. God bless him, Mike Franzese. The sit down. Now listen. That we had the sit down. Now listen, Billy and Sally. Now listen. Yeah, the sit down. How can you be a ghost in the streets of New York City with all these sit downs, Mr. Mike? Number one, coming up, he's not a violent guy. He's a nice guy, proper, nice guy. He wasn't like in the streets of New York, you get a term whether you're a rough customer, a tough guy, or a thinker, or whatever. Mike was a thinker, but him and all his sit downs. Now, like I said before, he's a great thinker, great chess player. But you young YouTubers, or however old you are, you view that the sit down, the mob channel word, the sit down, and all that bullshit. And well, Mike was smart enough to when you go to the sit downs, things can go wrong. Things can get derailed if you go to a sit down. Could be good, it could be bad. Anything could happen. You could get whacked. But Mike would send a surrogate. Excuse me. Good morning, Leon. Mike was smart enough to have someone. So while he's talking about all the sit down, Patreon channel, come do a sit down, and he's a good marketer, but he would have somebody else, a surrogate or another guy, diplomat, to go in and see what was going on. Maybe innocent things or maybe some very crazy things, but he was smart enough not to be in that sit down, which all he hear him now, but that's marketing, and that's good marketing. That's good marketing, Mike. But because he didn't have that hey, Dizzy Dunn, how are you, bud? He didn't have the reputation of like muscle, but maybe his diplomat surrogate person to go into the sit down maybe carried that persona more effectively or more implied or assumed, which there was many. So everything, the Patreon, come on, we'll have a sit down, and a sit down. You weren't at half of them. A sit down. You weren't even there, Mike F. Come on. Good to see you, pal. So every other word, because the viewers just, they just lap it up. They lap it up. The sit down, Mike Franzese, sit down. He was smart enough not to be at them sit downs. Have someone come in, then they come back. Well, we talked about this and that. Everything's cool, Mike. Blah, 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 blah. Everything's fine, okay? I think they're looking for some more money of that $500 million, you grabbed. Maybe that's what they're looking for, They had a sit down because you're going to have to send some money up to the other families because you're sitting on $1 billion. So that's what the sit down was about, Yeah, figure it out. So I wanted to put a quick thing. Everything is good here. I hope you're doing good, my subscribers, Dizzy and Leon. So that's all you hear. It's getting, come on, the sit down. Well, he's got a stranglehold of the viewers, and they get giddy like a little schoolgirl at an Elvis Presley concert, and they get giddy. Mike F in the sit down. Here, let me give you 20, Mike F, and let's have a virtual sit down. Here, let me get my credit card out. Hey, let's have a sit down, Mike F. Yeah. That's fine. He's a smart businessman. The sit downs. Mm-hmm. They wanted my godfather to go to a sit down. He told him, get lost. I don't sit down for nobody. Get lost with your sit down, Mike Franzese. Get lost. Sit down. You ain't giving orders. Mm-mm. They can't talk standing. What the hell's going on? The sit down. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like the World International Conference, the Geneva Conference, where all the international leaders get together. Yeah, whatever. Because he was perceived not as a forceful guy. He was the son of Sonny Franzese, and that's what put him on the radar and everything else. He was a boss or captain by name, but not by responsibility. And when you bring in $1 billion, you could be, they'll call you anything. Yeah, you're the president of the United States, Mike Franzese. Just come up with this, just share the wealth with all of us and the other families. Yeah. What about that sit down? Why don't you talk about the sit down when all the families and everybody and your captains and everybody else got together and said, you can't hide this much longer. It's all over the streets of New York City. This gas tax scheme, you better start handing some money out to the other families. You don't talk about that sit down, right? Because you were in a submissive position. You can't portray that on your YouTube channel. All you portray is, now listen, we had a sit down. Yeah, what about when they sat you down? What about when they sat you down and told you what the rules are and what you got to do? Yeah, okay. That's fine. You got to be a chess player through and through, and he's a good one. So, yeah, the viewers love it. That demographic of people, they love it. They can't get enough of it. Sit down. Yeah, a sit down could mean a number of things. It could be just rackets. How are everything going with the rackets? Financial moves, legal moves. Somebody that might be misbehaving, and now there might be a candidate for getting hit. But at the sit downs, you could promote somebody to get hit, and if they don't agree, then you're going to get hit. So Mike was very smart not to be at the sit downs. Send somebody in, feel it out and everything, and then you have a buffer, because he knows that a lot can go wrong at the sit downs. But him and his little viewers on his channel could have a sit down for $30 a month. Smart thinking. Yeah, I got some swampland. I'll sell it to anybody that wants it. So that's the the sit downs. And they talk about the chickens. They're selling the chickens with Sammy the Bull or John Gotti and the rackets and who's getting what money and the sit downs. But Mike Franzese didn't want to be around anybody. He wasn't in the streets. He wasn't visible. He wasn't visible out there like everybody else rocking and rolling. He was very insulated. I don't know what kind of picture he paints on his channel and whatever he tries to communicate about that type of stuff, but he wasn't visible. He wasn't an intimidating guy. He wasn't perceived as that. But when you call for a sit down, you better have some cayunes or something. Well, Mike wasn't at them sit downs. He wants sit downs for $49.99 on the Patreon channel. On you can get a sit down. And all he's going to tell you is, now listen, go to PayPal and pay your $49.99, and then tune in tomorrow and pay another $50, and then I'll let you know. Now listen, then tomorrow we're going to talk about this. Now listen, But Mike Franzese, I did my credit card limit is I reached my credit card limit. I can't do it. Well, then you miss out on the sit down. Him and the sit downs. It's comical, folks.